After 15 years of unwavering dedication, Evelyn Carter found herself sitting in a sterile conference room at Zenith Tech, the hum of the fluorescent lights above matching the hollow feeling settling in her chest. Across from her, Amanda Blake, the company's stern-faced director of operations, leaned forward with a rehearsed expression of regret. Beside Amanda sat Lisa from Human Resources, shuffling papers inside a crisp manila folder that seemed to gleam ominously in the harsh lighting. "Evelyn," Amanda began, her voice carrying an undertone of thinly veiled satisfaction. "As you know, Zenith Tech is undergoing a strategic realignment. Your position is being consolidated as part of a broader restructuring." She slid the folder across the table with a soft whisper of paper against laminate. "Your contributions have been valuable, but the company must move in a new direction." Evelyn glanced at the folder without touching it. She knew exactly what it contained. The standard severance package, a pat on the back, and a list of career counseling resources she would never use. At Numdymime, she was being cast aside from the very company where she'd poured years of expertise, countless late nights, and personal sacrifices to build the foundation of its most successful product. "I completely understand," Evelyn said calmly, her voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her veins. She met Amanda's eyes without flinching. Relief flickered across both women's faces. They had clearly braced for tears, arguments, or angry protests. After all, it wasn't every day they dismissed the woman who'd architected the distributed processing system that powered Zenith Tech's flagship software, Finovate, used by nearly half the Fortune 500. What Amanda and Lisa didn't know was that Evelyn had seen this coming weeks before. A stray email thread, meant only for the executive team, had mistakenly landed in her inbox, detailing discussions about eliminating her role and quietly taking ownership of her algorithm. The betrayal had stung at first, but it had also given her time to prepare. "We'll need you to return your keycard, laptop, and company phone by Friday," Amanda continued, emboldened by Evelyn's apparent compliance. "You'll have until the end of the week to clear your desk. Your team will be notified this afternoon." Evelyn's thoughts drifted to her team of 6 brilliant engineers she had personally recruited and mentored over the years, the same team that had helped her craft the technology now at the center of Zenith Tech's success. She nodded once, rising gracefully from her chair. "Of course, is there anything else?" The two executives exchanged a brief glance, clearly thrown by her composure. Amanda cleared her throat. "No, that's all for now. Thank you for your professionalism." As Evelyn walked back toward her office, the glass-walled corridors of Zenith Tech felt suddenly smaller, more fragile, but in her pocket was a plan they couldn't see coming, a plan that would change everything. The moment Evelyn Carter closed her office door behind her, she let out a slow, steadying breath. The sterile professionalism she had maintained during the meeting melted away, replaced by the quiet determination that had fueled her through every challenge in her 15-year tenure at Zenith Tech. She sank into her chair and pulled out her personal phone. It was time to put her plan into motion. Weeks earlier, the innocuous ping of a misdirected email had upended everything Evelyn thought she knew about her company. The thread, titled Restructuring Strategy, Project Polaris, was meant for the inner circle of Zenith Tech's executive team, but instead had landed squarely in her inbox. As she read each coldly clinical sentence, the true intent behind the company's sudden shift became clear. Push Evelyn out, finalize ownership of her distributed processing algorithm, and file the patent without her name on it. To the executives, it was a brilliant cost-cutting maneuver. To Evelyn, it was an unthinkable betrayal. Yet instead of despair, Evelyn felt a spark ignite within her. She knew that intellectual property developed entirely on personal time, using personal equipment, fell outside the company's claim. That night, she dusted off the notes and prototypes she had been refining privately for months. Improvements to her algorithm that dramatically increased processing speeds by over 40%. Working late into the night at her dining room table, she compiled every line of code, every handwritten sketch, every test result, all carefully time-stamped and documented. The next morning, she contacted an old college friend, Patrick Morgan, now a partner at a prestigious intellectual property law firm. By the end of that week, Evelyn had filed for a patent on her improved algorithm under her own name, backed by airtight evidence proving the work was completed entirely outside of Zenith Tech's purview. When Patrick introduced her to Alexandra Reed, CEO of Orion Systems, Zenith Tech's fiercest competitor, Evelyn's plan truly began to take shape. From that day forward, every polite smile Evelyn offered at the office masked her quiet confidence. Every status update she gave in meetings concealed the fact that she already knew her fate and had already secured her future. She watched Amanda and the executive team go through the motions of preparing her dismissal, oblivious to the fact that the very technology they were planning to steal had already slipped from their grasp. As the days ticked down toward her final Friday, Evelyn tied up every loose end with meticulous care. She documented every process, prepared every transition note, and treated every interaction with colleagues as a chance to leave a final, professional impression. If anyone suspected what she was truly planning, they gave no sign. By the time Evelyn's last day arrived, she was ready. Her team would soon know the truth, and the executives at Zenith Tech would discover just how badly they had underestimated the woman they believed was powerless. The chessboard was set, and Evelyn Carter was about to make her first decisive move. Evelyn Carter's last morning at Zenith Tech began like any other. She arrived early, greeting the security guards with a warm nod as she walked through the revolving doors for the final time. Her crisp navy suit and calm expression gave no hint of the storm that was about to hit the company's gleaming glass tower. She settled into her office, methodically packing her belongings: a framed photo of her daughters, a crystal award for excellence and innovation, and a stack of badges from years of tech conferences. Just before lunch, Evelyn slipped away to meet Alexandra Reed at the Meridian Club, an exclusive restaurant far from Zenith Tech's headquarters. The private dining room, enclosed by polished oak panels, offered a quiet haven for the conversation that would determine the future of both their companies. "They actually went through with it?" Alexandra asked, shaking her head as their orders arrived. Her sharp eyes sparkled with both disbelief and opportunity. Evelyn nodded. "Amanda handed me the severance folder herself. They think I'm walking away empty-handed, but they don't realize I've already secured the improved algorithm with a fully documented patent under my name." Alexandra's smile was razor-sharp. "And you're sure the documentation is airtight?" "Every line of code, every log, every timestamp," Evelyn confirmed. "All created on my personal equipment during my own time. Zenith Tech can't touch it." Patrick Morgan, who had joined them, slid a leather folder across the table. Inside were the final contracts granting Orion Systems exclusive rights to Evelyn's patented improvements. The agreement included a 7-figure signing bonus, substantial equity in Orion, and royalties from every product using her algorithm. Evelyn reviewed the paperwork carefully, then signed each page with measured precision. "Congratulations," Alexandra said, raising her glass in a toast. "On Monday, you'll start as our Chief Innovation Officer, and we'll announce the exclusive licensing rights to your algorithm first thing in the morning. Zenith Tech will have no choice but to scramble." Evelyn's thoughts drifted to her team of 6 engineers. She had quietly prepared individual offer letters for each of them, ensuring they would not be left behind in the chaos that was about to unfold. "I want my team to come with me," she told Alexandra firmly. "They're talented, loyal, and they deserve better than what Zenith Tech has planned for them." "Done," Alexandra agreed without hesitation. "Senior roles, generous compensation, they'll be taken care of." As the lunch meeting wrapped up, Evelyn felt a quiet exhilaration settling over her. For the first time in years, she was more than just a cog in a corporate machine. She was a strategist, an innovator, and a leader charting her own course. She walked out of the restaurant with her head held high, knowing that every meticulous step she had taken had led to this moment. Friday might mark the end of her time at Zenith Tech, but Monday would mark the beginning of a new era. And by then, the executives who underestimated her would have no idea what had already slipped through their fingers. Monday morning dawned clear and bright, but inside the polished steel and glass headquarters of Orion Systems, the air was electric with anticipation. Evelyn Carter stepped out of the black town car that had arrived precisely at 7:30 a.m. to collect her from her apartment. She wore a new charcoal suit that felt like armor, a symbol of her rebirth, as she crossed the marbled lobby to the private elevator reserved for senior executives. On the top floor, Alexandra Reed stood waiting, her eyes warm with welcome. "Evelyn," she said, extending a hand, "welcome to Orion Systems. Are you ready for this?" "More than ready," Evelyn replied, gripping Alexandra's hand firmly. Together, they stepped into Evelyn's new corner office, an expansive space with floor-to-ceiling windows that overlooked the city skyline. a stark contrast to her cramped cubicle at Zenith Tech. Sunlight spilled across the polished wood floors, illuminating the freshly installed nameplate on the door. Evelyn Carter, Chief Innovation Officer. The press release went live at 7 a.m., Alexandra informed her, handing over a tablet displaying the news. Headlines from major tech publications flashed across the screen. Orion Systems secures exclusive rights to revolutionary algorithm. Evelyn Carter named Chief Innovation Officer. Evelyn scrolled through the announcement, which detailed her contributions, the significance of her algorithm, and Orion's plans to integrate it into their next generation of financial software. The statement made clear that any company currently using the technology would now need to negotiate licensing terms directly with Orion Systems, a not-so-subtle message to Zenith Tech. As Evelyn set down the tablet, her phone buzzed with the first text of the day. It was from Nathan, one of her former engineers. Evelyn, Zenith Tech is in chaos. Executives are in an emergency meeting. What happened? She smiled faintly, replying, "Check your personal email. You and the team have offers waiting." Meanwhile, 8 miles away at Zenith Tech, the executive suite was descending into panic. According to updates Nathan sent throughout the morning, the moment the news broke, the company's general counsel and CFO had stormed into the CEO's office. The flagship product, Finovate, relied entirely on Evelyn's algorithm. Without it, they faced an existential threat. Stock prices began to slip within an hour of the announcement. By 9:30 a.m., the routine Monday leadership meeting had turned into a crisis session. The board demanded answers as legal teams frantically searched for any claim over the technology. But every document pointed to Evelyn's rights, each time-stamped log and private development record reinforcing her ownership beyond dispute. Evelyn, meanwhile, was settling into her first day with a quiet, unshakable confidence. Alexandra stopped by mid-morning with a smile. "Our phones are ringing nonstop. Clients are reaching out to make sure they're on the right side of this." Evelyn looked out at the sprawling city below, realizing how quickly her world had changed. Where once she had sat silent at Zenith Tech meetings, overlooked and underestimated, she now stood recognized and respected, the architect of technology so vital that it had shifted the balance of power in an entire industry overnight. Monday was only beginning, but Evelyn knew the future was finally hers to shape. By mid-morning on Monday, the shockwaves of Evelyn Carter's move had fully reached Zenith Tech's gleaming headquarters. The executive team, which had expected a quiet start to the week, found itself instead in a full-blown crisis. According to messages Evelyn was receiving from her former team members still inside the building, the scheduled leadership meeting had been abruptly hijacked by panicked discussions about the press release. From his corner office, Zenith Tech CEO Colin Drake could see the first signs of trouble. Urgent phone calls from major clients, a flurry of emails from investors, and the blinking red light of his voicemail indicating a dozen messages waiting. Every communication carried the same undertone: uncertainty, concern, and demands for immediate clarification. Meanwhile, Evelyn sat in her new Orion Systems office, reviewing the initial performance reports from her algorithm's integration tests. Each graph and metric confirmed what she had always known: the improvements she developed on her own time would dramatically outperform the outdated version Zenith Tech had relied on. A gentle knock interrupted her thoughts as Alexandra Reed stepped into the room, a knowing smile on her face. "Tech news outlets are calling this the algorithm coup," Alexandra said, dropping a few printed headlines on Evelyn's desk. "Zenith Tech blindsided as Orion Systems secures key patent, read one." Another stated bluntly, "Colin Drake's leadership questioned after strategic blunder." Across town, Zenith Tech's legal team was frantically combing through Evelyn's old employment records, searching for any loophole to challenge her patent. But each development log, every timestamp, and every personal device record only reinforced her airtight claim. Nathan, her former lead engineer, who was still finishing his notice, texted updates in real time. "They're pulling server logs, reviewing every commit you made. It's chaos." Evelyn typed back a calm response. "Make sure you and the team stay focused. Your offers are waiting." At 10:45 a.m., her phone buzzed again. This time it was a direct email from Colin Drake himself. Subject line: "Urgent, please call." The message practically dripped desperation, requesting a discussion about clarifying the situation and hoping to resolve what he called a misunderstanding. Evelyn forwarded the email to Orion's legal team without reply. Meanwhile, Zenith Tech's stock continued its downward slide. By noon, it had fallen nearly 7% since the market opened, while Orion Systems shares were up more than 10% on the strength of the announcement. Analysts began speculating openly about whether Zenith Tech could survive the blow, given that Finovate, its core product, depended entirely on Evelyn's algorithm. Evelyn remained composed, moving through her first meetings at Orion with a quiet authority. Every greeting from new colleagues reinforced the respect she now commanded, a stark contrast to the dismissiveness she'd faced at Zenith Tech. By the time she stepped into a strategy session that afternoon, word had spread industry-wide. Orion Systems had pulled off a stunning victory, and Evelyn Carter was finally recognized as the inventor of the technology that had revolutionized financial data processing. Outside her new office window, the city skyline gleamed under the afternoon sun. Inside, Evelyn felt a certainty she had long been denied, the certainty that she, not Zenith Tech, held the future firmly in her hands. By Tuesday morning, Evelyn Carter's decision to leave Zenith Tech had become the dominant topic across the tech industry. Major publications ran feature stories on her sudden departure, while analysts debated how quickly Orion Systems would capitalize on her patented algorithm. At the same time, Zenith Tech's boardroom had turned into a pressure cooker. As reports filtered in about lost investor confidence and shaken client relationships, CEO Colin Drake's authority eroded by the hour. Inside Orion's headquarters, the mood was entirely different. Evelyn stepped into her first full leadership meeting as Chief Innovation Officer, greeted by enthusiastic applause from her new colleagues. Alexandra Reed introduced her to the broader executive team, highlighting not just her algorithm, but also her commitment to mentorship and visionary leadership. Evelyn could feel the energy in the room shift. Here, her ideas weren't just tolerated. They were sought after. First order of business, Alexandra began, handing Evelyn the floor. Let's hear your roadmap for integrating the new algorithm into our upcoming suite. Evelyn connected her laptop to the conference display, her slides illuminating the darkened room with diagrams, benchmarks, and phased rollout plans. She detailed her vision for leveraging the algorithm's processing efficiency to create faster, more scalable products, innovations that would give Orion a clear, lasting edge. Heads nodded around the table as she spoke. Even seasoned engineers looked impressed by the clarity of her strategy. Meanwhile, messages from Nathan and other former teammates continued to arrive. By Wednesday afternoon, all 6 of her closest engineers had formally accepted their offers from Orion, their resignations landing at Zenith Tech within minutes of each other. Nathan's text summed it up perfectly. "We're all in, when do we start?" Evelyn replied simply, "Monday, welcome home." That evening, she took a quiet moment alone in her new office, standing by the tall windows overlooking the city lights. The skyline sparkled, mirroring the sense of possibility that had taken root inside her. Her phone buzzed with updates from Orion's communications team. Client inquiries were pouring in, eager to secure products based on the improved algorithm. Industry commentators had begun calling it Carter's algorithm, a name that, for the first time, publicly attached her identity to her innovation. Late that night, a final email arrived in her inbox. It was from Richard Hammond, a senior partner at Zenith Tech's largest client. The message was brief but telling. "Congratulations, Dr. Carter. We look forward to seeing what you build next. Our loyalty follows the technology." Evelyn exhaled, feeling years of frustration lift from her shoulders. For so long she had watched others take credit for her work, her contributions hidden behind executives' empty smiles. Now her name was finally recognized, her expertise sought after, and her ideas valued. As she turned off the lights and stepped out of her office, Evelyn knew this was more than just a new job. It was a new chapter, one where her skills, leadership, and vision could shape the future without limits or stolen credit. By the end of Evelyn Carter's first week at Orion Systems, the aftershocks of her departure from Zenith Tech had grown into a full-scale corporate earthquake. News outlets reported daily on the saga, with headlines like "Zenith Tech's costly mistake," "Losing the mind behind the algorithm," and "Orion Systems soars with Evelyn Carter at the helm." Evelyn's LinkedIn profile exploded with thousands of connection requests and messages of support, many from women in tech who saw her as proof that perseverance and talent could triumph over corporate politics. Meanwhile, inside Zenith Tech's headquarters, chaos reached a boiling point. On Friday afternoon, Evelyn's former colleague Nathan sent a message she had been expecting. Victor is out. Board just announced his resignation, effective immediately. The company's board had convened an emergency session the night before after watching the stock plunge 23% in a single week, erasing millions in market value. Investors demanded accountability, and the board placed the blame squarely on Colin Drake and his failure to secure the company's core intellectual property. Marjorie, the HR head, who had gleefully handed Evelyn her severance papers, was also dismissed, along with Zenith Tech's head of legal. The leadership purge sent a clear message to employees and shareholders. The company was desperate to salvage what remained of its reputation. That same evening, Evelyn received an unexpected email. The sender was Richard Donovan, Zenith Tech's newly appointed interim CEO. His message was direct and markedly different in tone from Colin Drake's desperate pleas earlier in the week. Dr. Carter, congratulations on your new role. I've been brought in to guide Zenith Tech through this crisis. We recognize your contributions and would like to discuss a fair licensing arrangement for your patented technology. We are prepared to acknowledge your work publicly and make appropriate amends for past oversights. Would you be available next week? Evelyn forwarded the email to Orion's legal team with a simple note. Phase 1 complete. Minutes later, Alexandra Reed appeared in her office, holding 2 glasses of champagne. The board just called, Alexandra said, eyes sparkling with satisfaction. They wanted me to congratulate you personally. Your leadership has already given Orion Systems a decisive edge in the market. Together they raised their glasses. To the future, Alexandra toasted. To recognition, Evelyn replied, clinking her glass. It was more than a victory. It was validation for years of thankless labor, for every time she had been told to stay quiet, for every idea overlooked because of her age or gender. Now, industry publications ran stories praising her strategic brilliance, and tech conferences requested her as a keynote speaker. As the evening light streamed into her office, Evelyn reflected on how quickly everything had changed. Just 2 weeks earlier, she had been packing her desk under the watchful eyes of Zenith Tech executives. Now, she stood as a symbol of innovation, and a cautionary tale to any company tempted to undervalue the people who create the very technologies they depend on. 3 months after Evelyn Carter's fateful departure from Zenith Tech, the tech industry had shifted in ways few could have predicted. At Orion Systems, Evelyn's leadership had already begun to bear remarkable fruit. 3 major products built on her refined algorithm had launched ahead of schedule, each boasting processing speeds and data handling capabilities that competitors struggled to match. Market analysts started referring to Orion's technology as the new standard for enterprise financial systems, a clear sign that Evelyn's vision was reshaping the sector. Every Monday morning, Evelyn gathered her growing innovation team, now including Nathan, Priya, and the rest of her former Zenith Tech engineers, around a massive conference table with walls lined by floor-to-ceiling whiteboards. There, they sketched ideas for future improvements, debated technical challenges, and mapped out bold strategies. Unlike the stifling meetings at Zenith Tech, these sessions crackled with creativity, mutual respect, and the joy of building something meaningful. Meanwhile, the effects on Zenith Tech were devastating. Their flagship product, Finovate, had hemorrhaged major clients, some of whom switched to Orion's new solutions within weeks. Zenith Tech's hurried attempts to rebuild the algorithm had failed miserably, with insiders leaking stories of missed deadlines and buggy prototypes. The company's market valuation continued to drop, and job cuts rippled through departments once considered untouchable. On the industry stage, Evelyn's star rose higher. She accepted invitations to keynote major conferences, where she shared not just technical insights, but a powerful message. Innovators deserve recognition, and proper documentation of intellectual contributions can change not just careers, but entire industries. Her story inspired countless engineers, especially women and older professionals, to protect their work and advocate for their rightful credit. One afternoon, as Evelyn wrapped up a board meeting at Orion Systems, Alexandra Reed entered her office carrying a bottle of vintage champagne. She set it down gently on Evelyn's desk, her expression a mixture of excitement and pride. "I wanted to be the first to tell you," Alexandra said, eyes gleaming. "Orion Systems has officially surpassed Zenith Tech in market valuation. Investors are calling this the Carter effect. Evelyn let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. It wasn't triumph she felt, but a profound sense of vindication, proof that creating real value came from nurturing talent, not exploiting it. She thought of the years she'd spent watching her contributions minimized, her voice ignored, and smiled. Those days were gone. As the Orion team gathered to celebrate, messages poured in from industry leaders, offering partnerships, journalists requesting interviews, and young developers asking for mentorship. Evelyn took a quiet moment to look out the window of her office, the city bathed in the golden hues of sunset. She reflected on how a single, decisive choice to claim ownership of her work had not only changed her life, but rewritten the rules for an entire industry. At last, her innovation was hers to share, her name forever tied to the algorithm that had set a new benchmark, and she had no intention of slowing down. A year to the day after Evelyn Carter walked out of Zenith Tech for the last time, she stood on the grand stage of the Global Technology Innovation Summit, the room packed with industry leaders, young engineers, and journalists eager to hear her story. The lights dimmed as the host's voice boomed across the hall. Please welcome our keynote speaker, the inventor who redefined enterprise technology, Dr. Evelyn Carter. As she stepped up to the podium, a wave of applause greeted her. She paused, taking in the sea of faces, and felt a quiet certainty settle in her chest. Not so long ago, she'd been pushed out of a company she'd given 15 years of her life to, told she was too old, that her ideas belonged to someone else. Yet here she was, not just surviving, but thriving, recognized, and celebrated. Evelyn began her speech not with technical jargon, but with a heartfelt story. The moment she found the email plotting her departure, the nights spent refining her algorithm on her own time, the difficult decision to leave the familiar behind and claim what was rightfully hers. She described the sting of betrayal and the fear of starting over, feelings many in the audience knew all too well. But in those moments of doubt, she told them, her voice strong, I realized something vital. Your ideas, your work, your innovation, they are part of who you are. And no one has the right to erase your contributions or claim them as their own. She shared how documenting her work, believing in her value, and finding allies who recognized her worth had transformed everything. Her message resonated deeply with young women engineers and older professionals who felt overlooked in a world obsessed with novelty over experience. Evelyn's words offered them not just inspiration, but a blueprint for protecting and championing their own ideas. As she neared the end of her speech, Evelyn looked out over the audience, her eyes shining with emotion. Remember this. Innovation isn't born in boardrooms or marketing slogans. It comes from people like you, who dream, who build, who persist, even when others doubt them. Your ideas deserve protection. Your name deserves to be attached to your creations. Never let anyone make you believe otherwise. Thunderous applause erupted, echoing through the hall. Afterward, during the reception, dozens approached her, students asking for advice, seasoned engineers thanking her for giving them courage to stand up for their work. Evelyn realized the impact of her story was bigger than she ever imagined. She hadn't just reclaimed her own future, she had sparked a movement for recognition and respect across the industry. And now, dear viewers, as you reflect on Evelyn's journey, ask yourself, what dreams, talents, or innovations are you letting others diminish? What ideas do you have that deserve your name on them? Share your thoughts below. We'd love to hear your stories of perseverance, triumph, or lessons learned in your own career. If you found Evelyn's story inspiring, don't forget to like this video, leave a comment sharing your thoughts, and subscribe to our channel so you never miss more powerful stories of resilience and innovation that can change your life. Let's build a community that celebrates real creators, starting with you. Because in the end, success isn't just about what you achieve, but about standing up for who you are and what you've made, and making sure the world knows it.